Destiny 2 is a game about shooting, non-stop, at scary creatures who honestly rarely even put up a convincing fight. But occasionally, in the midst of all this gratifying action, you're momentarily stopped in your tracks by the beauty of its environments, and you remember that somewhere hidden away in this game there's meant to be this surreal world of mystery and wonder, but that world really, really wants to make sure you won't ever get bored. Everywhere you can go is filled to the brim with content, in the form of chests and loot, and enemies who respawn quickly, lest the anxious silence be allowed to creep in. Of course, for as much as I've enjoyed these games, this gets boring. Despite all the splendor and variety of Destiny's far-out sci-fi world, it sure feels like all you'll find here is a whole bunch of the same stuff. Thank goodness, then, that it's possible to literally step outside of that structured experience and go exploring for real. You know, without doing anything rash, like turning off your PlayStation. One of Destiny 2's entire planets extrapolates on my favorite environmental theme from the first game. I've always been fond of Vex areas and how they seem to occupy this semi-abstract middle point between nature and architecture. The shapes composing these spaces are clearly artificial, and yet not really planned. Their layouts and details are ostensibly artifacts of a glitchy algorithm. Throw in some overgrowth and you've got some convincingly alien worlds, but of course they're only pretending to be chaotic. In reality, they've been carefully designed by talented environmental artists, so it's good that they're Swiss cheese. There were so many holes in these boundaries that I found several escape routes on my own without ever having to look very hard. But every time it still feels like uncovering a magical secret. That's a feeling the Warlock main in me craves, but it's hard to intentionally design for that kind of discovery. Appropriate then, that Warlocks are the best at getting out of the map this time around. When I first saw this thing, I thought I might finally be able to glide right inside the Marathon logo and meet Jason Jones face to face like this was the final boss of Doom. Turns out it's not that interesting in here, but it does make for a good launchpad to do this. This Dawnblade Super. Man, and its rapid air dashes are bonkers, and let you get to all kinds of places you're not supposed to. Never change it, Bungie. It's completely right that as a Warlock I can peel back a few layers of reality and discover some higher truths. Wow. Once you're out of bounds, Nessus kind of becomes itself. I mean, talk about a Vex simulation, right? No longer just presenting as an incidental landscape that came about as a kind of technological byproduct. This place actually is that. Far more so than anything in the real game, this is a genuine, unaccommodating alien world, governed by strange rules which aren't there to delight you, but sometimes do anyway. Other times they get in your way. The raids in these games are full of opaque problems designed to be solved. This netherworld is full of problems which you can never be certain are or aren't solvable. The smallish community that likes exploring out here is going to be discovering new tricks and new places to reach for the game's entire lifespan. It's really exciting when you stumble into something as significant as a way to trigger a load into another area while remaining outside the level. And it's never easy to tell what the limits are. Might there be, for example, some way to reach this floating island, seemingly surrounded by invisible barriers? There's a real sense of ever-deepening mystery to all this. Sometimes it's hard to shake the feeling that waiting at the end of it, there's some grand revelation, or at least a funny Easter egg. I guess it's because every other time I've played a video game, I've been engaging with an intended experience. This is almost an entire parallel AAA video game made by accident. It feels like new territory in more than one way. But honestly, it's also hard to shake that sense of spiritual mystery, because when you're dealing with such a degree of real beauty that exists by accident and which is hidden behind a veil, a mystical feeling is what naturally follows. Anyway, that's why I get excited about it. Of course, plenty of other games have similar glitches, and I certainly haven't seen all of them. But to me, Destiny's have a special sauce. It looks the way my favorite music sounds. It's something in the way Bungie builds their geometry, in the way the lighting works, the way you can watch the culling freak out, and maybe also in the way I see this place as a weird shadow of this setting's untapped potential. But I think the main ingredient is the feeling that there's not just a void surrounding the play area, or a shortcut that might help you in your speedrun, but an entire labyrinth. Chewing through Destiny 2's story missions, I was having a decent time, but there was also a feeling of waiting for the real game to start. Once the credits rolled and the reward cycle kicked in, the feeling persisted. It wasn't until I started poking around outside the map that I finally felt like I'd found what I was looking for. A place to explore that exists on its own terms, not just to guide me down a path to the next vista and my next legendary engram. I've been shooting these same exact aliens for over 3 years now. If anything is going to keep me logged into Destiny, it's out here.